My name's Joe Woodham from Tory Consulting. Welcome to our vlog series on all things design. Today I'm speaking with Benson Low, who's the ex-head of design for REA. Benson, it's a pleasure speaking to you. Keen to find out a bit more about yourself and your journey so far with AI and design.
Thanks, Joe. Glad to be on this chat about AI and design. Definitely close to my heart. I am not only a keen observer of the current growth and really transformation and how this is going to change every role that we know of in tech. Bit of trepidation, but also a lot of excitement around what it can potentially, do from the outside perspective.
I'm in the same boat as you. Very excited, but just the understanding of what will happen or what's about to come, intriguing, right? Read a lot of articles in terms of the dot-com boom and what happens then. So it'll be interesting to see how AI and design intersect. Like, have you got any sort of current AI tools that you've been playing with that's sort of really sort of helped you speed up some of the things that you're working on?
Obviously, the most obvious answer is ChatGPT.
Yep.
I'm a paid user as well on top of that. But obviously, I've been playing and looked into Bard, Lambda, or various versions of Lambda, given Meta's openly released it. But really, I think from a design perspective, the engaging interface, I would say the experience from an AI, generative AI perspective, it's either has been ChatGPT or MidJourney from a pure image generation perspective. I think there's a coalescence coming between all the different, large language model providers and frameworks that comes together from a, holistic experience in driving and delivering those tools. But at the moment, it's all very fragmented at this stage. You could see OpenAI trying to do that. Their latest keynote really talked about how they're integrating all sorts of query types, engagements with the user, from audio, uploading photos, uploading documents, talking to it, and typing your queries. It's all coming together. Is how do you engage with AI is ultimately the battlefield, because that ultimately engages designers involved. If I look at my early career, the biggest tool that we back in the day was, I would say, Photoshop. It was a highly complex tool that you really have to craft your expertise at. But even before software, it's either pencil and paper and paint, right? Physical medium. It's going to be another medium. So AI is going to be another medium that goes beyond just a very kind of expectation. It's going to generate. It's going to be a partner in design process. I think the word Copilot being used by Microsoft and now highly branded as a Copilot product is essentially quite a great brand. It's going to Copilot design. It's called Copilot research. It's called Copilot products to exist, but also to be produced. I think that's the most interesting part. Our developers are literally now, they're not going into any kind of GitHub repositories. They're literally, co-piloting through code right now nowadays. So they're not going to go through any of the Stack Overflow medium again. That's highly likely to be disrupted. Stack Overflow, you could see they've just gone through layoffs recently. Completely changed the game.
Okay. And how would you see the design space using AI as a team member, however, not letting it overshadow, I guess, the human element to the creativity piece?
I think there's so many levels, right? I'm gonna start at the most basic level, like from no design to a level of design competency, very small competency. You would use tools like Canva. You would use tools that would literally create things for you. But from my kind of career, and I think a lot of people that might be listening to this are professional designers, product designers, UX designers, UI designers, CX, whatever they want to call themselves. They've been in industry for many years, seasoned. They're looking for tools that can help them leap towards better processes, better quality work, better efficiencies. So it depends what we're talking about. Like I would say, entry-level tools like Canva's great, but then you got really complex tools like now Photoshop with canvassing AI, expanding on that using Firefly from Adobe. That's already integrated into the main tool, and Illustrator is called Firefly. So vector tools are now being used as AI as well. So it just depends which designer you're talking about here, because the word design itself have so many different levels of, I would say, evolution from what AI can do for them.
Out of interest, this is more of a personal question. Like, how do you see any risks with the level? So, like, an experienced designer playing with AI when they maybe can tell there's a hallucination or there's an issue in the work produced, whereas a junior designer might not be able to pick up some of the things there. So, do you see a bit of a danger with the right people using the right tool?
I think there always has been those issues. Like, wasn't too long ago, Photoshop was too realistic. People, could airbrush someone's head on to someone else's body, and it was relatively easy as well. There's no difference in terms of, there's these kind of designs that we can create to elicit a response or to achieve some type of experience that we're trying to design for. It's the same thing. It's a level of consistency and quality that AI doesn't have at the moment. And I don't think those tools will ever try to get you that level of consistent quality. So I think in the future, it might get to that point. At this point right now, it's not there. You could just look at MidJourney. Every time you use the same prompt, it's coming up something completely different. No matter how close you try to replicate it, it's never the same. So it's over-generating, in fact. Design don't want to over-generate. Design wants to control. So I think that's the challenge that designers are facing into using this type of tools, is that where is your control of your tool? I think that's something that'll be super interesting, the nuances. How do you dial it up? How to dial it down and consistently produce those same outputs as a tool would be super interesting. At the moment, MidJourney is probably the best quality image generation out there, but the lack of control concerns a lot of people. And that's why Adobe has taken a very tool-oriented basis to give those aspects to the designers, breaking it down. And then if I talk about more of an interface design perspective, if we look at Figma, they're creating, I would say, largely well-known established patterns of user flows, user interactions, native design versus responsive web. How do you get those done? Those are pretty much solved problems. That's great because AI will help us coordinate one particular design and expand it to all these platforms. I think that's the efficiency part we want to see, but it's still the designer's job to edit and critique what it's done before, to stitch it together, to provide and deliver that experience still. I don't think that will change. It's still the designer's job to do that, but the execution part is much, much better and quicker.
And how do you move forward with the education piece, getting the balance right with traditional design principles and then emerging AI technologies and sort of melding them together?
Great question. Recently, I've been talking to many other design leaders in the recent weeks. And one of the fundamentals, I think, is to go back to fundamentals. Teach design theory. Teach design principles. Because I found a lot of people have lost some of that, which means they then find it hard for them to critique their own work, let alone the AI's work. So how do you know that's good? You need to know what's good. Provide those principles on top of that, and then be able to mold it. A good designer should be able to do that. So I think it's going to be less on execution, hopefully, and more on quality of thought and quality of the design solution itself, the process of that, of understanding, talking to real users, because AI would not replace your users, understanding the context, collaborate even more as a designer with the product teams, the engineers, to make better decisions along the way. I think what AI is going to give us to do should give us better decision-making process. So we make the right decisions in the right time so that we can execute it better.
Coming back to like maybe the ethical implications of AI and design, what measures do you think the industry needs to promote to make sure they sort of protect the privacy and promote inclusivity when using AI and doing research?
I think the whole industry, not just design or research, is impacting this. I feel like, did you hear about the meme of the melting egg?
No.
Quora, the kind of the query engine. Someone typed in, can you melt an egg? And what happened was they were plugging into ChatGPT and said, yes, you can melt an egg. Of course, you can't melt an egg. But what that ended up doing is cascaded along other, I would say, bots in ranking the SEO of the search query melting an egg to be a real content, and gone to this loop where people were reading articles on how to melt eggs, but of course you can't. Of course you can't. But the reason why I brought that up is we're gonna be super careful in what we ask versus what it comes back with. It's still very early stages. Data points like quant and qual data reference, or I'm sure they can reference McKinsey's articles or the Harvard journals and so forth. You got to do your due diligence to make sure those citations are actually what is cited, because we've really seen too many cases nowadays that even gone to courtrooms that are not real. And it becomes our job to then bake in our due diligence. I think the word due diligence is the key here for making sure AI referencing is actually true. But it's like any good research. Hey, Joe, you did some research there. Can you prove that's real? Can you prove that that data source is reliable? Do you have confidence of that insight? It's no different today when I ask my researchers when they did that research, how did they do it? Who did they talk to? Were they the right people to talk to? Because it validates or invalidates those insights and those information points. For me, if I'm a decision maker, to make key decisions. So it falls back into not just designers, but the product managers. Ultimately, everyone has this kind of cascading trust and confidence level that they need to kind of check and lever. So going back to your question, that ethics is huge because it has immense amount of impact to not just deciding on things, but also getting impacted in your work's brand reputation, user satisfaction, but also legalities. Are you going to get sued?
That's going to be the rise of or revival of QAs and testers again, just to sit over and review everyone's work and make sure it's all not hallucinations.
A bit of that, but it's more so that specialized QA. So design would have a specialized QA. I would say, marketing would have a specialized QA. Because they know their vertical, they know their profession, they know their expertise. So that level of QA would come into it. No different if you're running a museum that specializes in African art. You want someone that has years of experience identifying this is real art, or antiquity from a particular area, year, century, whatever. Yeah. So it's no difference. I'm spotting a fake versus what's spotting a real thing. We'll have to get to that point.
Yeah. Well, that's probably the next question. Is like, how does AI reshape the design industry? So what are the maybe new trends or the new jobs that come off the back of this? And a QA designer might be one of those roles.
Yeah, well, we really talk about the prompt engineer, right? From an engineering perspective of working with AI, I would say it's going to be everyone's job to be a prompt engineer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But put a layer on top of their expertise. I'm going to be a design prompt engineer. I'm going to be a software developer and prompt engineer. So I would say that's still the cap on. You're just doing it differently. This is part of the job. So I would expect, in the next year or so, designers able to do really great prompting of their tool. So I don't want to say ChatGPT because it could be completely different. It could be Figma. It could be Adobe's offerings. It still need prompting because they're really building the prompt in Photoshop. So it's context driven, fed by the designer or whoever's running that design tool. But you're still gonna start to kind of cultivate, craft, and shave off the right things until you get to the outcome that you're looking for.
And as a designer, not wanting to get left behind, where do you start? Would you as a designer now focus just on ChatGPT and mastering prompting? Is there other tools that you start to look at, or is it really just get a handle on ChatGPT to start with and then sort of work on what tools are going to be the most efficient in your job?
I think it's a very good question. If there was any designers listen to our chat, I think the key thing I would ask that designer is, what do you want to produce? What type of work do you want to produce as a designer? And then go backwards from there. Find the right tool that fits that. What's the best tool for you to get that done? And then understand the processes, the effort involved to invest some time to lift your skill set to do that effectively. It wasn't too long ago when desktop publishing, maybe we're both old enough, Joe, came along that move a lot of people from bromides to to desktop publishing. That revolution is coming again for the designers. Now it's moving away from coding, boxes and arrows, now to automating stuff. Like you've almost got to start thinking about this like an engineer. So the challenge for designers is to start thinking it at scale. That's what automation gives you. You can do this at scale. You can design at scale on an individual designer level.
Yeah, I love it. And I think it's really good advice to start with the basics and then work your way out. Like I've done it probably more from a business development perspective or content creation. And like once you get it up and running and you work out how to use it to the right ability of what it's meant for, like it's fantastic. Like it speeds up the time. You can produce amazing stuff very quickly. So like, I think narrowing it down, like, because if you look at it, it's like drinking from a water hose. So narrowing it down to exactly what the task is that you're trying to achieve, and then just layering on that is probably that's where I started, and that's probably what's helped me on my journey.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think you made a great point there, Joe. It is a water hose of functionality. How do you tap onto the right stream? You're not going to blast it open. You're not going to just churn things out because it's just not going to hit the right spot. It's probably too much for most people, to tell the truth. How do you dial it in? How do you make sure that you kind of turn it into a craft? Because design is a craft. How do you make this AI tool or these kind of AI offerings part of your craft? What is in your toolkit? All right. So be the artisan still. Be the artist in here. Know your tool, because the tool makes your work, but you're the one still controlling the tool. I think that's the key word there.
All it really does
don't lose control
by your current skill set, right? Don't try and solve everything. Just still work within your skills and then use it to its best ability.
But I think going back to one of your previous questions, how would this change the designer's role? If you don't change with it, it will change you or make your job irrelevant. So everyone, I'm talking about everyone here, not just designers or researchers, everyone in the tech industry needs to pick this up, because you don't be left behind, because we've seen this before.
Yeah. It's similar to what happened in the .com era, but who knows what's about to happen, right? How does it change design for the better? Well, I'm excited to see what happens. Like, how does design change? Like, what do websites now look like? Or what does the user experience now look like? Because it is kind of the same for the last couple of years. So what's the evolution?
Yeah, I think a lot past the last couple of points I want to make is we want to make sure that we shape the tool and don't let then letting the tool shaping you as a designer, and being really mindful in how you architect those experiences. You become the director seat to direct the AI tools to do your work. I think ultimately that doesn't stop. You're still doing design work, but you're doing less, hopefully, repetitive work, because that should be done by AI. Be careful about letting AI be your proxy, because you're essentially then lose control. Making sure that information from a right source, do actual user research and just don't ask AI about that. Be really confident that you have the right things, the right information. Otherwise, it's going to have essentially bad data equals bad decisions. Good data gets you closer to a good decision. So those are so important to make sure that you get the best out of it, and be careful what you're actually understanding to making those decisions. As doesn't matter if you're a designer, a product manager, or a CEO. You have to have the right information. Otherwise, you're just going down the wrong track.
I agree. And let's go back to something that we said pre-recording, but where to start within an organization. It really does need to start top down. Like, everyone's already playing with AI, but if they're not, I guess, looking at it from a top-down approach, no one really knows what's happening. There's no sort of foundations or boundaries of what can and can't be done. So I think getting an organization on board early is probably just a smarter approach.
I think it's super important to have the right strategic direction and leadership on how they deal with AI in every single organization. A bank will have to deal with it very differently. Yeah. To someone that is just creating a SaaS product. So it's going to be very different depending on the business model you have. And I think I'm going to keenly look into how this is going to disrupt business models, because it will. AI will disrupt lots of business models.
I think I'm an entrepreneur, so for me, the excitement around being able to automate tasks and move faster and do more for less is such a exciting idea, and it's an exciting time to see what happens. So I'm assuming a big business is probably just as excited because they've got bigger budgets to be able to implement cooler things and test it.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but they're probably less risk adverse. So for a startup, for someone that's starting to disrupt market using AI as their engine, I reckon that's gonna be more exciting. I think there's going to be more disruption. I think it'd be a new wave of disruption that we haven't seen for a while, to be honest.
Which I'm excited to see what happens, because like even with small business, right? Like there's early adopters and there's late adopters, and I think we're still in early adoption phase with what we can and can't do with it, and there's not many people doing anything great with it at this point. So look, once it starts getting a little bit more mainstream, it's going to be very exciting to see how fast the industry moves and the changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see how it actually, formulates, shapes, because they'll need people to run some of these things. I just don't think AI can run businesses for you. It'll help you operate it more optimally. Hopefully, both of those kind of financial reportings, all those stuff can be all automated. So it makes a business owner's job much easier. Imagine if you don't have to do BAS statements every quarter. And then automate that. I'm pretty sure either Zero or MyUp's working on it straight away, making sure, hey, if your quarterly BAS is pretty much 80% the same time, you just need to check it, to update it, done. Right? I'm pretty sure Zero AI is going to do that for you in 6 months' time. That's already going to come. So it's all of that thing is going to remove your effort in managing a business.
Yeah, right. Like the platform, you already use the platforms, so they're doing all the heavy lifting on the back end. So like Xero are going to be investing in trying to work out how they solve those problems. So it's, from a business owner perspective, if you can solve some of those small time-consuming tasks, happy days.
Yep, more time to put your attention to bigger, hairier product challenges as a business owner. Yeah,
and that's one of the biggest problems as a small business. It's spending time in the wrong area because you have to. So
yep, absolutely.
Benson, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today, and congrats on the new job with Atlassian. Be very exciting. But if anyone wants to reach out and chat anything about AI, what's the best way? Is it just hit you up via LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think hit me up via LinkedIn. I'm on there more than I am now in other social networks. I think X/Twitter's dying a slow death, unfortunately. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Lovely. Once again, Benson, it was a pleasure speaking to you today, and I look forward to speaking again.
Thanks, Joe.
Cheers. Bye.